Alright, we're live now already, and I want you to make me co-host so I can assist accordingly. So,
There you go.
got it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Anthony.
Okay, are you admitting those people, or should I be doing that?
You go ahead and admit him from the waiting room.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Let's see. Start checking people off here. Hi, Nancy. How are you? Welcome.
Thanks.
And Anita. Okay. And Cynthia, how are you? And Sharon, good afternoon. Welcome. And just go ahead and unmute and say hi. Just want to check everybody's microphones, make sure everybody can hear me and I can hear everybody.
Hi, this is Shannon.
Wade.
All right, great.
Hello, Wade.
Hello.
All right, I heard Gary there, and I think Shannon.
Hi, Wade. Cynthia.
Hi, Cynthia. Okay, great. Got you there.
Geneva.
Hi, Geneva. Welcome. All right. See, Larry, you there?
Hi.
All right. Oh, there you are. Okay, got picture and sound. Excellent. Let's see. I think I heard Gary already. Who else am I missing? Dale, you there? All right. And let's see, Louise.
Yes, I'm here.
All righty, great. Hi, Louise. How are you today?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, we're going to have a nice big group today. So that is nice. Good way to end the day. This is my last class today. So we'll end it on a high note. We are expecting a few more people in, but I'm going to go ahead and start getting my technology set up and going. That'll take me a couple of minutes and give a few more people a chance to come in. I see Veronica's coming in as now. And let me check her off. And Beth, hi Beth, can you hear me? Okay, Veronica, looks like you're unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Hi, Veronica. And let's see, Beth, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great, excellent. Just checking, making sure everyone's microphone's working so I can hear you if you have questions once we start the class. So let me go ahead and share my screen and start getting things set up so we can get started on time. As always, a lot to cover today, so we're gonna make sure we get time for everything. So I'm gonna move your pictures over here on my side monitor so I can see everybody. There we go. Great looking group today. And we'll move this over here. I will be muting probably several times during the course of the class whenever we start picking up any background noise or echoes or if the neighbor starts the weed eater. So before you ask a question or make a comment, just be sure to check and see if you're muted. If you are, just unmute yourself and ask your question. You don't need to raise your hand or anything. You can just unmute and ask your question. I'm going to also open up the chat and have that open over here so I can see that. All right, that is now open. So if you're having trouble with your microphone or you need to contact us via the chat, that is now open. And Anthony from our Get Set Up TA team is here to help monitor the chat and also to help you with any questions you might have about your microphones, video, or anything else. You can reach him in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Anthony. Appreciate your help as always.
You're welcome. I'm here to help. If anybody needs any help related to any tech issues, I'm here.
All righty, great, thanks. Okay, so we usually allow the first 5 minutes to give people a chance to get logged in and get their technology working. And I think I've heard everyone's voice here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We are 5 minutes in. So this is Excel Basics. I do want to welcome everyone to the class. I certainly hope you enjoy the class. My name is Wade Yarbrough, and I'll be your guide for the class today. Briefly about my background, I know some of you have heard this already, but I'm from Mason, Tennessee. It's a small farming community about 35 miles outside of Memphis. I have my degree in psychology, experimental psychology from West Virginia University, and I've taught psychology at several different colleges along the way during my career, but most of my career has been spent designing, installing, and training users on hospital information systems. I did have a minor in computer science, so I've always kind of been split between psychology and technology. And what I love being able to teach here at Get Set Up is I get to teach people like you that are here because you're interested in the topic, not because your employer or someone else made you take the class. And that is what we try to do at Get Set Up, is to create an environment where you can take classes on topics you're interested in, but be involved with other people in the same class that are interested in the same topic. You can hear each other's questions and learn from each other. You can also ask me questions directly. So that's what we're trying to do, is create a very interactive, comfortable environment. That's one reason we ask people to turn their cameras on if they're okay with that. It kind of makes that comfortable feeling a little better, but it is certainly not required if you would rather leave your camera off. The session is being recorded, and anyone in the class can request a copy. Just send an email to help@getsetup.io. And I think Anthony has put that in the chat. He has. So if you don't have this already in your email contacts, go ahead and copy and paste that out of the chat during the class. We are also live streaming today, so I do want to welcome anyone joining us via live stream. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoy the class as well. But I do want to stress that the only way to get that full experience of interacting with the other learners and being able to ask questions of the guide is to go to our website and register for the class. And finally, Get Set Up is not paid to promote any of the products that we train on. Let's take a look at the agenda for today. So this is a basics class, so we're assuming that you don't have any background in Excel, so we're going to start at the top and go from there. So you'll understand by the end of the class, you'll know what Excel is and how to get access to it, how to create and save Excel workbooks, how to use simple formulas and functions, and how to enter, format, and copy information in a spreadsheet. We do have a Excel intermediate class that picks up and gets into some of the more complicated functions, picks up where this one leaves off. So let's start with the basics of what is Excel. And Excel is a powerful spreadsheet program which allows users to enter and manage data in the form of numbers, text, and formulas. That's what we're primarily working with. Excel has been the undisputed market leader in spreadsheet programs for quite a while. They weren't the originators. Some of you have been in this business a while, like I have, may remember Lotus 1-2-3, which was really the predecessor to Excel. And even further back than that, VisiCalc, I think, was the originator of the spreadsheet, certainly the first spreadsheet that became very popular. But Excel has been king of the hill for quite some time now. But they're looking over their shoulder because Google Sheets is gaining popularity rapidly. So Google Sheets is a very comparable program. It's a spreadsheet program. We do have a class on Google Sheets as well, if you're interested in comparing and contrasting the two. And as always, I'm going through this material. If you have questions, comments, please don't hesitate to unmute and say, hang on, I didn't get that, or can you repeat that, or explain it better? And I'll be glad to stop and answer any of your questions. So there's a couple of different ways to get access to Excel. I know a lot of people probably have used Excel where they worked, and their employer provided that to them, at least to use at work. Probably had it on your laptop. You could use it at home as well. You don't have that anymore. You can purchase Microsoft 365. That is the primary way now that Microsoft provides their technology. It is a subscription. It's $69.99 a year. But for that, you get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive, OneNote, Outlook, pretty much all the Microsoft software, as well as 1 terabyte. That's 1,000 gigabytes of storage. So pretty good deal for the money, but it does cost you to buy that. We do have a class, another related class. It's Microsoft 365 Overview. So if you're not familiar with what all is included in Microsoft 365, that class goes over all the other bits and pieces there if you're trying to figure out if that makes sense. There is also a free version of Excel. It's part of what Microsoft calls Office Online. It runs as a browser app, so it will run in a browser, any browser that will work on any device that supports a browser. But it does not have all the features of Microsoft 365 Excel. It is a somewhat stripped down version. You can get OneDrive for free as well, but with only 5 gigabytes versus 1 terabyte. So it's a good way to kind of get started, but again, it is a limited version. I'm going to be using the Microsoft 365 version today. And in the email that comes out after class, I'll include some links to both of these, Microsoft 365 and Office Online, if you want to check into them and acquire either one of those. Okay, so any questions about Excel before we jump into using Excel? Okay, all right. If not, let's go ahead and take a look at it. And I'm going to actually just go ahead and start Excel. It is a program in Microsoft, so I have it in my taskbar down here. You can also go to the Start menu and find Excel over here and start it from here. Either way works. Both of it do the same thing. And it brings Excel up in the home screen. And again, so this is where you would start. And there's 2 sections to the home screen. The top part is how you would create a new workbook. The second part, lower part, has all the workbooks that you have access to. We're going to start at the top because if you're new to Excel, you won't have anything down here yet. 2 ways to start a workbook. You can start with a blank one. I'll click into there just to show what that is. So it literally is a blank worksheet that you can fill in with anything you want. I'm going to restart Excel. The other way is to start with a template. And if you've used templates before, you're probably familiar with the concept. Templates are pre-formatted spreadsheets. So it's a way to get started if you're doing something new. And there are several here, but there's a link here that says more templates. If you click this, it'll take you into a much longer list of templates. So you can see there's actually even a tour template that goes through some things, but you can scroll through these. There's got a basic calendars. It's got a lot of different budgets that you can set up, a household monthly budget, invoices, balance sheets, student schedules, invoices, lots of business related templates. And you can actually search up here and get into more details. So this is, so you can search by business, personal, planners and trackers, list, budgets. You can search by name. I'm just going to grab one here kind of that we can take a look at. Let's look at the household monthly budget. I don't think I've looked at this one before, but it's something that's probably a lot of people would want to have a household budget. So when you click on it, it opens this screen where it shows you a little bit about what it's going to be. That says company name instead of household, but that doesn't matter. We'll take a look at it anyway. If you want to take a look at it, you click create, and it takes that template and copies it into your computer and creates a workbook. And I must have picked invoice by mistake, but okay, works fine anyway. So it's got a template here. You would put in your company name, all your information, the items that are on the invoice. There's formulas over here that'll compute totals and subtotals and taxes and those sorts of things. That's where the spreadsheet part comes into play. You can use a template as it is, or you can go in and modify it once you learn how to modify Excel spreadsheets. So that's pretty much what a template is. Questions about templates? Okay. I'm going to go back and click on File, which will take me back to that home page where we were. So that's how you can start and create your workbooks. Down here are workbooks that I have access to. And they're the first tab, I got 3 tabs here. The first tab is called Recent. It has all the spreadsheets I have access to with the most recently opened, going backwards in time. There's also a pinned column here. And by pinning, what you can do is you can take a workbook that you want to be able to access quickly and easily. I've created one for the class today. So if I wanted to pin this, I could come here to this little pin. Looks like a push pin you would use in a bulletin board. And I can click that pin. I've now pinned it. It'll show up over here. There it is. So this is handy, especially if maybe you've got 25, 50, 100 spreadsheets over there. And there's half a dozen that you want to be able to get to that you don't use every day. So they're not going to be high in this recent list. But when you need to find them, you want to be able to find it. You update it twice a year, 3 times a year. Pinning it is a great way to get it where you can find it quickly. If I want to unpin it, I can just do the opposite. I come over here, hover over the pin, and you can say it says unpin this item from the list. It takes it out of my pinned list. It's still in my recent list. The last tab is shared with me. These are workbooks that someone else owns, but they have given me access to it. So you can share your workbooks with other people. They can share theirs with you. And you can do whatever that person has set you up in terms of rules. You can set it up so someone can edit a shared workbook, or they can just have view-only privileges. If we have time, I'll show you how you can share a workbook. And if you're interested in more in that, we have a OneDrive class. Everything in Excel is designed to work with OneDrive. And that's really where the sharing is happening with OneDrive. So that's a class that gets into how all that sharing and file location and works behind the scenes. Luckily, Excel hides most of that from you. Questions about how do you get to workbooks? Okay. All right. Well, let's keep going then. I'm going to go ahead and open this workbook that I've created for us to use today. And here it is. I'm going to get rid of this other one that we had opened just to clear up my screen. I don't have too much stuff here. All right. So let's talk about the layout of the screen a little bit. The way the screen is laid out is you first have tabs up here. And the tab is the top part of what is called the ribbon. This whole area is called the ribbon. So each tab has groups of functions. And so in this case, function library is the group. And then each one of these is a command or associated with that group. Go back to the home tab. So like all the fonts are in here in this font group. Things associated with alignment of text is in this, this group. If you've used any of the Excel Office products, they're all set up the same way. Word, PowerPoint, all use that ribbon concept. So let's talk about how spreadsheets are, and we're going to be using some of these today as part of the class. Spreadsheets are made up of rows and columns, as you can tell. The cell is an intersection of a row and a column. So this is cell D7, column D, row 7. Luckily, Excel tells you over here in the name box where that is. So no matter where you click, you can tell here I'm in J14. I don't have to do what I just did and do this to figure out where I am. But cells are the only place you can enter information. All information is in a cell. There's 4 different types of information you can put into a cell: numbers, text, dates, and formulas. We'll talk about each one of those briefly. So numbers, one thing you have to understand about spreadsheets, makes them a little bit unique, is that what you see in the cell isn't necessarily the exact contents of that cell. I see 5.28 here. If I look up here in what's called the formula bar, I can see the actual contents of that cell as 5.278456. You can format a cell to show the contents differently. In this case, I've decided to show only 2 decimal places. I can also double click the cell and it will show me the true contents of the cell. If I click away from that cell again, it'll go back to showing me the formatted contents. I can change the formatting. I can go up here and change the decimal places, to be fewer decimal places, more decimal places. So we'll talk about formatting later, but that's one way you can format a number. It's also a handy function up here, which is undo. So if you do something and you want to put it back like it was, you can always undo it as well. So that's numbers. Text is a case where pretty much what you see is what you get. What you see in the cell is the same thing. Dates are special types of numbers. In Excel, they're stored as a number. Here it's formatted in long form, which actually tells me Thursday, January 2nd, 2020. What is actually stored is just 1/2/2020. Again, I can double click here and see the actual contents. Again, I can format that here in the formatting. I can switch it to the short date. And then there are other formats down here. So I can show it in lots of other formats. I can make it show just the month and the day. Again, we'll play with formatting a little bit later, but that's formatting. So let's put it back like it was. So I'll, again, undo twice to put it back like it was. The last thing is a formula. This is where we're starting to get into the meat of spreadsheets. And here you can see the cell is 525. If I look at the actual contents, it actually is a formula. It's equal to left paren 12 plus 3 right paren times 35. So you can create a formula just like any algebraic formula, and the result will show up here. We're going to talk more about formulas in just a second. Again, I can double click here, see the formula. I can edit the formula from either place, from down here or from up here. Just whichever one you'd rather use. Question about contents of cells. All right. If not, let's start.
I have a question about the date.
Yes.
Where did you go on the ribbon to check? I mean, to look at the date?
To change the format?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's all under this number group.
Oh, okay.
And and some of them are right here, mainly for numbers. But if you click this drop down, it'll again show you frequently used ones. And what I did is I went all the way to the bottom where it says more number formats, which gets me into even more formats. So these are all the date formats. If I want to look at currency formats, you can have different ways to format currency. So this is your drill down that gives you lots of different breakdowns.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That was actually too easy.
Okay, easy is good. So let's drill down more on formulas because that is one of the most important parts of spreadsheets. And we're going to start with a very simple formula and then add a little bit of complexity. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a formula that adds 42 and 148. And the way I typically try to explain this is that think about it like a calculator. If I was using a calculator to add 42 and 148, I would do something like this. The big difference is in Excel, you always have to start with an equal sign that tells Excel I'm going to enter a formula. But then it starts to work like a calculator. I type 42, I type plus, I type 148, and I hit enter, just as if I was on a calculator, and it shows me the result, just like I would see on the results screen of my calculator. Again, I can see my formula up here. If I make a mistake, I can edit it up here, or I can double click and edit it down here. You don't do this very often, adding two numbers. There's not much value in doing that in a spreadsheet, even though you can. Typically in spreadsheets, you're working with cells. So the second formula I want to create is I want to divide the contents of B3, here's B3, by 10. I'm going to hit equal, telling Excel it's a formula. Now I could type B3. I'm lazy. I just click on it, and actually clicking, make sure you don't make a typo as well. But you can see it now entered B3, and I want to divide that by 10. So I'm just going to put the slash and a 10 and enter. So 190 divided by 10 is indeed 19. Here's my formula. I can check and make sure that looks correct. Now, so this is a formula with a cell reference and a number. You can have formulas that only have cell references. That's probably the most common thing you're going to do. So I want to subtract this cell from this cell. So I can just say equal. Always start with the equal. B3, and I could type it in. I'm just going to click on it, hit the minus, then I'm going to click the cell I want to subtract from it, hit enter, and I get 171. 190 minus 19 is indeed 171. Here's my formula. Now the magic here is that both of these cells reference another cell. So if I change this cell, these two cells both change automatically because a reference cell changes. That's where you can start having cells all over the spreadsheet referencing other cells, which reference other cells. So you could maybe change one cell and 3/4 of your spreadsheet recalcs just because you changed that one cell. That's the magic of spreadsheets. All right. I'm going to keep going. Again, if you have questions, I'm not sharing my screen, my image here. I apologize for that. Never started my video. Okay, so so again, if you have questions, please stop me. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going through, especially this early material.
Wade?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you're referencing a different cell for these formulas, are you right-clicking or left-clicking?
Left-clicking.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, I mentioned that dates are numbers, which means I can do math with dates as well. So if I want to know how many days is it from December 4th, 2020 to December 24th, 2020, I can do a formula just like I've done before. I can say equals this cell minus this cell. And again, I'm just hovering over there and left clicking. And I could type it in longhand. And it gives me it's 20 days between the two. You probably could have figured that out without a spreadsheet, but if this was 2029, you probably couldn't have. 3,307 days. So lots of times you don't need to understand how many days it is between two dates. You can do that in a spreadsheet as well. I'm going to show you a trick next. Any questions about formulas before I move on? We're going to touch on them a little bit more before we're done here, but I'm going to show you a shortcut. When you're most of the time when you're working in spreadsheets, you set up tables, and they typically are set up around times. So you have a weekly spreadsheet or a monthly spreadsheet, and so you're entering information for January, February, March, April, May, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So in the old days, when I started working with Excel, if I was going to set that up and have these column headers, I would have to type Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, kind of a pain. Now, what you can do is enter the first cell, the starting point, grab this bottom right corner, drag it over, and it will complete that series for you. It can save a lot of time when you're setting up a spreadsheet. It works whether you're using names or number dates because they're all numbers. Well, this is interesting. Little trick on the way. I've got all hashes here. What that means is that it can't display that. I'll show you this more later, but you can change the size of a column just by coming up here until it changes from a down arrow to arrows pointing left and right. Push the left mouse and then drag it out to make it wider. And now you can see it. So anytime you get those hash marks in there, it doesn't mean there's a problem. It just means it can't display the whole thing. I can do the same thing with months. And it works for column headers, or if you're setting up rows, it works the same way. Grab that bottom right corner, drag it down. So just a little tip and trick, save you a lot of time setting up spreadsheets.
Does it do the same thing with numbers?
You can do that with numbers, and we're going to take a look at that in a minute. It works slightly different with numbers.
Okay.
It's and we're going to get to that in the next section over here. So let's go to functions. Functions are like pre-coded formulas, so they work like formulas. But and here I set up a very simple table, a small table. So this table has 4 columns. It has and this is club members for my club. And so I've got the full name of the member, what tier they're in, what their monthly fee is. And then I've got a column header I haven't filled in yet. We will. % of total. And I want to know how many people I have in my club. And yeah, this is small. I could count and see there's 4. But let's say I'm up to over 200 people in my club now later. And so I don't want to count 200 rows. I could say this cell plus this cell plus this cell plus this cell and make a big formula, but that would be an ugly formula with over 200 rows in it. So functions let you do things like that where you could do a formula, but a function is much faster. So I want to create a function that will count the number of members, the number of rows. There's 2 ways to get there. Formulas are in here, but the quicker and easy way in most cases is to come over to this icon and click the down arrow, and it shows me the ones that most people use the most. It's a shortcut instead of going into the full tab. And I want to count, and there's count right there. So I'm going to say count the numbers. It creates my function, and a function starts with an equal sign because it's a type of formula. It has the name of the function. It's called count. And then it has what are called the arguments. And in this case, the arguments are what's the first cell you want to count and what's the last cell you want to count. And Excel guesses what you're trying to do. And in this case, it guessed really well. That is what I want to count. So I'm just going to hit enter. And it tells me there are 4 rows here, and that is correct. So it's not adding these numbers, it's counting the rows that have a number in it. Let me do a couple more of these, but again, if I go too fast, please stop me. I also want to know what's the total amount of money I collected that month for my membership fees. So I'm going to, you put your cursor where you want the answer to be. I'm going to put it under here. Come up here and grab a different function. I want the sum function. So I click that. And again, I can see the function equals the sum of starting in this cell through this cell. It's a pretty close guess, but it's not right. I don't want this cell that's outside of my table. It shouldn't be looking at that cell. So I can just change it. I can hover over the first cell, left click, drag down, release, selecting the cells, C4 colon C8. I could type C4 colon C8 as well, but I'm lazy. I don't like to type. And hit enter, and it sums up the values from C4 to C8.
Could
I
I,
also-
could I ask a question? I just want to
Absolutely.
be sure that the functions we were looking at, and the first one that has 4 people, but more than that in terms of whatever their numbers are, that was a count.
Yes. So this
And-
one says count. It's counting cells that have a number in it. That's what
Right.
it's actually counting. Yes.
Okay. And then the other is sum, and it gets the actual value of each. So,
Right.
okay.
It's summing the value of each cell. Yes. You've got it right.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me do one
I have a
more.
question.
Yep. Go ahead, Dolores.
If you wanted to do a drop-down box, or will you be getting into that, create a drop-down box, but I'm having a problem because the hyperlink moves and I don't know how to put it back.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that in this basic class. That's fairly advanced. In fact, that's not even in the intermediate class. That would probably be in an advanced class if we wanted to do an advanced class. But
That's probably why I don't know how to put it back.
yeah, that's that one gets into it. It's very doable, but it's not simple. Sorry. Let me do one more function though, just kind of make sure everybody gets the idea. And again, as I said, you can put the result of your function anywhere. I mean, with these two, I put it under the row I was working with. I don't have to. I want to see what the average payment is for all my members. I'm going to put it over here instead of underneath the columns. But do the same thing. Come over here, find average, click on it. It guessed really poorly that time, but doesn't matter. I'll just come up here, left click, drag down, release, and it puts in C4 through C8. That's what I want. Hit enter. And again, anytime I click on it, I can see my function up in my function formula bar. I can also double click down here and see it in the cell. I can edit it from either place. Is that making sense for functions? There are a lot more functions, and in the intermediate class, we talk about functions that have to do with logic and functions that work on text as well as numbers. So, and you can, just as a little preview, if you click on formulas, you can see there's lots of types of functions: financial functions, logical functions, text functions, date and time functions, lookup functions, lots of things. Good news. Bad news around Excel is that there's lots and lots of functions. The good news is you don't have to use but a fraction of them to get a lot of value from it. And you can start adding more complexity as you get comfortable with the basic functions. I'm going to do
I have one quick question right quick. When
Absolutely.
you did the count, there's something on my screen, so I couldn't see exactly where you put your cursor to get the count.
you can, you can,
Not there in the ribbon.
oh, up here.
Is that looks like sum?
It is, yeah, that's the symbol for sum, but if you click that down arrow, it
Oh,
gives
okay.
you all these choices.
Oh, okay. See, the
And here's the
other,
count.
okay, the participant screen is hiding that part. I couldn't see it.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you go up to the view options, up in
Mhm.
the upper right-hand side of your screen and pick side by side, it should move those pictures out of the way. But if not, I'll try and tell you what I'm doing here because we're not going to be over here in this part of the screen much anymore anyway. The next thing I want to do is to go back to formulas for a second, and because this is a special type of formula and it's a little more complicated, but it's one you use a lot in spreadsheets, calculating percentages. So if I want to know what percent of my total revenue did John Doe contribute, I can create a formula. So I'm going to put equals, say it's going to be a formula. Formula is pretty simple. John's contribution divided by the total, which is down here. 33% looks right. Somebody was asking if you can use this trick for numbers. You can use it for formulas. So I'm going to take this formula. I want to copy this formula down. So I just grab that bottom right corner. I'll show you another way to do it in a minute. And it copies that formula down. But I got a problem. It says I'm dividing by 0, which is not acceptable. So let's see what's going on. Let's check this one. This one does look right. C4, this is C4 divided by C10. This is C10. Let's look at this one. It says C5. I do want C5 divided by C11. I don't want C11. I want C10. What happens when you copy a formula? It increments all the references in the formula. So it changed C4 to C5 and C10 to C11. I do want to increment the numerator. I don't want to increment the denominator. The trick here, and this is just a rote memory thing, you have to put a $ in front of the row and a $ in front of the column, which basically says that is what's called an absolute reference. So don't ever change that cell's description. I'm going to copy it down again, and I'm going to use a different way to copy. Instead of using the bottom right corner, I'm just going to left click and show it every place I want it, and then do a Control D, Control down, D's for down, and it'll copy it down. And now that looks right. And again, you can see in this case, it's C10 stays C10, the numerator changes. Questions on that one? That one's getting a little tricky now. And since these are percentages, if I'm not quite sure that's right, it looks right, I can throw a quick formula function in there and say, because I know these should add up to be 100%, so I can just say, let's sum those up real quick and make sure my formula is right. It is 100%. My formula must be right. Last chance for questions on formulas before we move to formatting. And again, if you're liking formulas and functions, the intermediate class, we go into lots of more complex but fun formulas and functions.
I have another question.
Sure.
You said before we got to this that in most spreadsheet work, you use tables. How would this whole table work in your spreadsheet?
Well, this is a table. So a table is where you've got headers, and then which define what is in the table, and then you have instances of the information in the table. So this is the table. These are the headers, and this is actually the data. In fact, thank you, because I did forget to do one thing I wanted to show you. Now that I've got all my formulas and functions in here, the real value of spreadsheets is once you get your table in here and set up and you get all your formulas and functions working, you can add information to your table, do your business, do whatever you're doing, and everything works automatically. So now Bob Jones joins my group and he's in tier 1. My members count is going to go to 5 automatically. He's paying me $165. These all change automatically. If Bob Smith leaves, I can select that row, right click, and clear the contents. I'm now back to 4 members, and the total fees and the average amount and the calculations of the percentages all change. So as you're, doing whatever you're doing with your table, adding rows, deleting rows, changing something, this person's getting a break, it looks like. I need to bump her fees up. I'll change that to 135. Everything recalculates. That's tables. That's the magic of spreadsheets. Once you get your formulas and functions in, you don't really have to deal with them any longer. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question, Beth?
Sure.
Okay. All right. All right, so let's talk about formatting. We got about 5 minutes left, but this is not as complex and it's something you're probably more familiar with. So I think we can do this in 5 minutes. So this is the same table. This one looks nice. This one looks bad. What I usually do is I first get all my formulas and functions working first. I don't worry about formatting it until I'm done. So this one is all set up and ready to format. So I'm going to start formatting it. And it works very much like what you're used to probably with word processing. I want to make this bold, so I can click the B for bold. I could do this for each cell. Luckily with spreadsheets, you can work on rows and columns. So instead of having to click on every single cell, I can just say, I want to bold this entire row. So it bolds everything in that row. Works the same for columns. I can pick an entire column, or I can just pick a range of cells. I can say, I want to center all of those cells. Come up here to center, and it centered all those cells. This should be currency. So I can pick a whole column because everything in that column is currency. And so I can say to format that as currency. Now maybe it defaults to 2 decimal places. It's usually how you display currency, but I don't charge fractions of dollars. So I can say, let's get rid of those 2 decimal places, format it like that. Same thing here. These are all percentages. So let's click percents, format those as percentages. So fairly quick and easy. I've formatted all my numbers. Only one that I haven't done is this one. Let's do that one real quickly. I'll make that currency. And I've got a problem here, but we're going to fix that one in a minute. In fact, what I can probably do is to change. Since that is an average, we're going to leave it with 2 decimal places. We'll fix that in a second. Okay. All right. Again, I'm going to go through this. Stop me if I go too fast. Let's go ahead and fix the columns. I showed you that already a little bit. So I'm chopping off parts of the names here. I can come up here like I showed you earlier and move over till my cursor changes to 2 arrows and then manually adjust the size. But for something like this, there's a better way to do that. I'm going to use my undo, put it back like it was, because these are names. And in this case, it's a small table. I can see all the names, but if I had my 200 and something members, there may be somebody way down here with a really long name. And if I adjust it based on what I can see, I still wouldn't have that one done correctly. What I can do instead is do the same thing, get that double arrow, but then do a double click. If I double click, it automatically adjusts my column to the widest cell in that column. So even if row 214 is Wilson, Johnson, Williamson III, it will adjust it to that person's name length. I can do the same thing here for this one, take care of that one. So now I can get this in. I got a problem here. I'm chopping off part of this one. I could do my same trick here, but now I get all this ugly white space. So I don't like that. I'm going to undo that. There's another thing you can do, which is called wrapping text. And what wrapping text does is it takes this, takes these two words and puts them over and under. Here's wrap text up here. So I click that and it wraps the text. Now what that lets me do is now I can actually even take a little bit of space out of there. I can see my whole header. I can get rid of a little bit more white space. And I probably want to center this to make it look better. And that looks nice. I got the same problem here. The AL is bleeding over into the next row. You can't really see it there, but if I add something to this column, then you're going to see it. I could do this, the steps I did over here, but I've already told you I'm lazy. So instead of doing all those steps again, I can say this one's formatted the way I want this one to be formatted. I'm going to just copy that format. I come up here to my paintbrush, click copy and paste it here, and it wraps it and centers it automatically for me without me having to do anything. That's handy with one cell. Let's say I wanted to copy this to all of these cells. That saves me a ton of time. And I can do that. I can paint to a series of cells as well as a single cell. All right. A couple other things I'm going to do. I'm going to make my table where it stands out. And the way you normally do that is to put borders around all the cells. So I'm going to select all the cells that are part of the true table. And I come up here to borders. And lots of different borders you can use. You can put left borders, right borders. If you're doing financial stuff, you can have a double line at the bottom. But in this case, I just want to fill in all the cells in the table to make that table more obvious. My column headers kind of bleed in with my data, so I want to make them stand out as well. I'm just going to select them and then go to my fill color, make them a nice light blue background. So I'm getting pretty close to done. That's good. I'm almost out of time. Last thing I want to do is do something with my title up here. I probably want to bold that and probably want to make it a little larger. And I might even want to change the font. Let's make it a little bit larger than that even. So that's making it stand out. But now I want it to be centered. And there's no one cell that's in the center. What you can do is to merge these 4 cells into a single cell. And here's merge and center, which is what I want to do. I want to merge those cells into one cell and then center the contents in that one big cell. So now you can see this is one single big cell, and then there's 4 smaller cells below it. That way, if I change the size of any column in my table, my table name is always centered. And that's my formatting.
I'm sorry, could you
Questions?
repeat that again?
Which one?
The center of the title?
Yeah, let me put it back like it was with my undo. So the first thing I'm going to do is I just select all the cells that I want us to merge together. So I would basically pick all the columns in the table and then come up here to merge and center. Click that. It merges those. So now this is one cell. You can tell it's one big cell, one long skinny cell. And I've centered the contents.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Question, if you wanted to move this $606, one column to the left, how would that be done?
I would Control X, which is cut, and then Control V and paste.
Control X, Control Okay, thank you.
And in the email that comes out after class, I'm going to include a link to a website that shows you a lot of these keyboard shortcuts that I'm using. I love keyboard shortcuts. Again, I'm lazy. I don't pretend anything otherwise. Okay.
This was fantastic.
All right, great. Thank you. We have 6 minutes left to get you out of here in time. So I am going to need to go ahead and go to the closing. And that was the last thing that I wanted to show you. So that worked out fine. So that is the end of the official class. I do have some closing slides to go over, but I do want to thank you for attending. I hope you enjoyed the class and learned some things about Excel that you didn't know. As I mentioned, there is an Excel intermediate class that picks up where this one left off and goes into more advanced functions and features, how to deal with large spreadsheets, sorting and filtering and printing. I think I mentioned this one as well, Microsoft 365 overview, which tells you all about Microsoft 365, what's included, what it costs, those sorts of things. And I don't know if there are any Mac users in here, but there's also Microsoft 365 for Mac users. You can install Microsoft 365 on a Mac. It typically runs on Windows. It looks and works slightly different, not dramatically different, but there are some differences. So this class is for the Mac users to show them some of the Mac specific things of Microsoft 365, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, etc. After class, you'll get an email, and I've referenced this several times. There'll be some class notes in there. It'll have links to several websites. One is the keyboard shortcuts. There's a link to several other links there to some other information that we covered in class in case you want to look at that. I'm also going to put those associated classes, links to those classes in the class notes. So if you want to take in one of those classes, you can just click it right in the notes. It'll take you to the registration page for that class. You can recommend the class to a friend via Facebook or email. There'll also be links to 3 other classes that may or may not be related to this class, but there may be classes you'd be interested in taking. You can just click that link and go directly to that class. Give feedback link opens our feedback form. Very quick, 2 questions. Rate the class 1 to 5 stars, rate the guide 1 to 5 stars. We hope that you're enjoying being part of the Get Set Up community. And if you are, there's some other things you can do. We are trying to get some interest groups set up in the technical classes. So for example, we don't have an Excel interest group. If you would like to be part of, or maybe even host an interest group where you can get together with other Excel users, share tips and tricks, ask them questions if you got a problem you can't figure out, and get some groupthink going on there where you can have other people help you figure things out. Let us know, help@getsetup.io, that you want to be a part of that, and we'll see if we can get that interest group going. If there's a class you'd like us to teach, a possibility there is a Excel advanced class. If you take the intro and intermediate, there's lots more stuff. If you belong to an organization you think would be a good partner for us, or if you want to get a copy of the recording of this or any session, help@getsetup.io. Last link is View Schedule, takes you to our website where you can book another class. I've got 2 minutes, so I'll show you 2 things from here. If you're looking for classes, I think the easiest way to find a class is to search by keyword. You can search by class categories and by schedule. If you're just looking for what we're doing on a particular day, you can look by day this way. But if there's a certain class you're looking for, like you're looking for that OneDrive class, we talked about OneDrive, you can just type OneDrive, and you don't have to type the whole word even, just start typing and it will probably pop up pretty quickly. You can click there. It'll tell you more about the class. If you want to take it, you can sign up for it. If you ever see this notify me, what that means is we only book out for 2 weeks. Some classes are on a every week schedule, some on an every other week schedule, some on an every 3rd week schedule. This one's on a every 3rd week schedule. So it's not going to be offered in the next 2 weeks. If you click notify me, as soon as it's on the schedule and bookable again, we'll send you an email with a link to it. So you don't have to keep coming back and checking to see, can I book it yet? Can I book it yet? a nice little aid there is what that one means. Last thing, I got 1 minute left. If there's a guide or several guides that you like their classes, instead of putting a class name up here, you can put their name in the search and hit enter. And in this case, it's my classes. It'll show you that guide's classes in chronological order. So this is my my first class tomorrow morning, and then it starts going out in time for the next 2-week time frame. And you can book any of the classes that you see that guide is offering right from here. All right, that is everything. Any questions about booking classes or navigating our website? All right, if not, I do want to thank you for attending. I hope you enjoyed the class as much as I did. And I hope to see you again in another one of my classes really soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful
Thank
evening.
you. Thanks.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Very cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.